Hi, my name is Arun Pandit and I head the B2B sales for Loadshare Networks in India. Loadshare Network is one of India's fastest growing logistics startup which excels in serving the tier 2, tier 3 and tier 4 cities. The topic of the discussion is bridging the last mile e-commerce divide in India, serving the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Now I have structured this discussion into 6 parts. The first part would be talking about introducing Loadshare Network, what we do, what kind of businesses we follow, B2B, B2C, serviceability, etc. Post which we'll discuss more about an overview of the Indian e-commerce, retail and logistics sphere, followed by upcoming trends shaping the Indian e-logistics community. Followed by 3 case studies. The first case study would be dealing with improving turnaround times and serviceability of tier 2 and tier 3 cities. The second case study would be dealing with alternate channels to serve low volume cities in India. And the third case study would be dealing with managing CODs in e-commerce logistics sphere. Now, as far as the introduction of Loadshare goes, so Loadshare is a Matrix Partners and Stellaris Ventures funded logistics startup. We have got more than 150,000 packets that we deliver on a per day basis for clients like Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, Udan, etc. We are serving more than 18 states in India. We have got around 800 plus branches which operate under the Loadshare banner through our Atlas SaaS-based logistic management system. In the B2B segment, which is the less than truckload, part truckload or full truck segment, we are doing 400 metric tons per day. And we have seen a growth of almost 12x time in the past 18 months. We have been creator of more than 7,000 jobs across the nation. Now to give you an overview of the Indian e-commerce market. So Indian e-commerce market is one of the fastest growing e-commerce market in the world. In 2017, we had around $39 billion of revenue from e-commerce market. And by 2020, the numbers are projected to be upwards of $120 billion. So that is almost a 51%, you can say, year-on-year growth, which is the highest in the world. As far as policy supports are considered, government has allowed 100% FDI allowance in B2B e-commerce and 100% FDI allowance under automatic route in the marketplace model of e-commerce companies. It is a very attractive opportunity, both with respect to private equity funds and venture capitalists, and who are looking forward to investing in the logistics and e-commerce domain in India. We can very well imagine the strength of e-commerce by knowing that around $7 billion of investment entered into the logistics space in India. Now I'll talk about the key statistics, trends and initiatives in the e-commerce domain. So if you look into the sectoral composition of e-commerce, around 48% of the e-commerce is being dominated by electronics or white goods, which are there, followed by apparels. Apparels constitutes of almost 29% of the total. 29% of the total, you can say, e-commerce spend. Then another 9% of home and furnishing, 8% caters to baby, beauty and personal care, 3% of books, and another 3% are whatever miscellaneous is left, medicine and other stuff. So currently anywhere between 1 to 1.5 million transactions happen on e-commerce platforms across India on a daily basis. If you look into the online retail versus total retail trend in India, in around 2018, the number was around 3%, which we project to be increased to around 5% by 2020. As far as the internet users are considered, internet users are growing rapidly. Currently, we have got around 650 million plus active internet users in India, and this is projected to increase to around 829 million, 850 million by 2021. So this is a pretty big number which is there. And if I give you the segregation out of these, you can say 650 million plus around 150 million of them are e-commerce shoppers. So you can very well imagine that still 500 million plus internet users are not transacting on the e-commerce domain. There are a lot of initiatives which have been taken by the government, be it Digital India, be it Startup India or Digital Udan, primarily to sensitize the complete ecosystem, be it e-commerce companies, be it the vendors, sellers on the e-commerce segment, which are there. As far as the growth trends are considered, the internet penetration is on the rise. I've already told you in the previous slide. And we anticipate that due to the increased mobility, mobile has become a game changer. Earlier, mobile was only used as an instrument for communication, either through an audio call or through an SMS. Now, mobile is for social activities, social e-commerce. Mobile is there for purchasing, searching. So, mobile has become an integral part of everyone's day-to-day life, and India is one of the biggest consumer of mobile phone. As far as the language diversity is considered, you can very well imagine out of the 600 million active internet user, around 250 million use vernacular languages in their day-to-day consumption of internet, which is there. And we believe in that 850 million, which is projected for 2021, almost 500 million plus would be people who use their own native language for surfing the internet or for e-commerce. So that is another growth trend. There's also been an increase in the advent of social commerce, that is selling through social websites, be it Facebook, be it Instagram. A lot of influencers are doing the same, and a lot of startups in India like Meesho have originated in the same domain. The other thing which has led to the growth trend in e-commerce is the rise of digital wallets. Previously, people were very, very apprehensive with respect to paying online through credit and debit cards. They feared that there will be a lot of frauds which will happen. They had heard stories and myths, and people are very apprehensive regarding using credit cards and debit cards. But the good thing is, digital wallets have become very, very popular in India, be it Paytm, be it MobiKwik, be it PayUmoney, Airtel Money. So around 75% of the people who are using online payments consider digital wallets to be a very secure medium. So this has built-in confidence with respect to the payment gateway part of it also. So all of these things combined show that there's a long way to go with respect to e-commerce in India. And if we are getting a 40 billion GMR revenue from e-commerce right now, just imagine what if the number of active internet e-commerce users shoots to 600 million or 700 million. Now, as far as the e-commerce retail logistics is considered, the sectoral landscape. So e-commerce logistic players can be divided into traditional logistics service providers, e-commerce retail focused logistics service provider, and captive logistic arms. So traditional LSPs are the transporters or truck owners who have been working since ages, and they are not very tech savvy. So although they still constitute 23% of the total retail e-commerce retail logistics, but that is primarily into long haul movement where the kind of technology integration is not that much required as compared to the last mile thing. Now the e-commerce retail focused LSPs, which constitute about 28% of the total e-commerce retail logistics, are generally constitutes of either the LSPs who have evolved with technology or the new age startups, new age logistics startups such as Delivery, such as Expressbee, such as Loadshare, to name a few. So these LSPs are primarily tech centric. So they enable features like API integration, smart dashboards, and you can say tracking and other facilities which are available through these e-commerce retail focused LSPs. The third segment is the captive logistic arm. The captive logistic arm, for example, Amazon has got Amazon Transport Services, Flipkart has got eCart. So these are their own, the e-commerce company's own logistics arm. They primarily use this logistic arm to the locations which have got you can say significant volumes, or for the products which are probably expensive in nature. So the general tendency is there when they approach a new region, when the volumes are low, they provided it to the LSPs or traditional logistics service providers. Once they reach a particular threshold, then they open their own branch, which comes under the captive logistics arm of that particular organization. Now, e-commerce retail per se is driven by three models. One is marketplace, one is inventory, and one is fulfilled by retailer. So the marketplace model is simply that a seller is using a particular e-commerce website to sell the products. Now the quality of the product, the transportation, or you can say the courier of that particular product, and the returns of the product, everything is being undertaken by the seller. Now although this model still exists in India, but people are not very happy with this model because of the quality related issues which are there and the kind of service level these people maintain in most of the cases. So a lot of frauds, etc., happen in these cases. The inventory-led model is the model in which companies like Flipkart, Myntra, Jabong buys the inventory itself in their warehouse. They do the quality check, they do the logistics, they look in the returns, feedback, and everything. So this has got a lot of issues in the sense that you have to maintain the inventory. So a lot of, you can say, money is involved in this. So a lot of your working capital gets stuck in it. In case a product is not getting sold, it goes into slow moving. You have to probably sell it off at a lower cost. So this comes with extensive, you can say, working capital limitations. The third form is fulfilled by retailer. So it is more of an hybrid kind of thing in which the inventory is not bought by the retailer or e-commerce company. It is bought by the vendor or who's supplying the material. But the quality check, the logistic, the return is taken care by the retailer. So this is one of the preferred models in which the e-commerce companies are progressing. And if you look into the cost, so the whole e-commerce retail logistic activities flows from a first mile logistic to fulfillment, processing, sorting, line haul, and last mile. So line haul and last mile constitutes of around 85 to 90% of the total logistic cost, out of which last mile constitutes of the 45 to 50%. Last mile is the end delivery of product from to end customers like you and me, and line haul is the mid mile movement which happens. So still last mile constitutes maximum of the, you can just spend with respect to logistics in e-commerce models. Now, return is also a very big problem in India. Return can be further segregated into return when customer accepts the product, probably doesn't like the product, it doesn't fit. It is more prominent in the fashion retail segment. And then customer before delivery, the person has ordered, but the material has not reached to the customer. Probably it's not in time, or probably he has changed his mind, he bought it from somewhere else. And the third is the 3PL returns. If the third party logistic is not able to service that particular location, or that person is not available for some or the other reason, there's a delivery failure which is there. In India, almost 18 to 20% of the total e-commerce shipments are returned. That is huge. So every one out of 5 packet is returned, orders is returned in the e-commerce segment. But that is expected to, you can go down to around 8 to 10%, considering that earlier the return periods were pretty long, and the organizations were also very lenient in order to build attraction and confidence in the customers. And they didn't know the right SKU mix, category mix. But with the advent of more and more usage, data analytics, they have been able to provide better, you can say, categorization, better selected products where the chances of returns are less. We also seen a recent shift in the e-commerce retail logistic with respect to mode and zone. So surface is still the preferred mode. Around 79% goes to surface logistic, and 21 through air. Air being very expensive. The other thing is, a lot of these places, the airports are not there. So you again have to go through a surface logistic thing. The other thing is, a lot of startups have come up providing express deliveries in surface, double driver thing. So if you look at the cost benefit analysis, and specifically for the tier 2, tier 3 cities, surface makes more sense, both with respect to cost, both with respect to the nearest airport probably would be very far, and the total time taken and the cost associated with it would not be a very good situation to be. The other thing is zonal shift. So most of the organizations, e-commerce companies are shifting to the zonal model, which is there after they reach a particular threshold. So although national transit still holds a majority of around 56% through surface and around 8% through air, so it's like almost 64, 2/3 of the volume is catered through nationally through bigger warehouses. But you see 24% have gone into zonal and 12% to local. The local ones are primarily metros, high dense population cities where a lot of volume are there, and zonal also. The reason being that the cost associated with cost and TAT associated with the national, you can say, transportation is high. And if you see that a lot of the companies are gradually shifting focus to bigger products also, like white goods, be it a fridge, be it a TV and everything. and sending them through a national freight or a long distance comes at a higher cost also, and chances of breakage and damages also. So if you got a zonal shift, it becomes easier to transfer and manage the TAT of such bigger products also. So that is the shift which we are seeing in the past few, you can say, months. And there's also shift from, you can say, metro. The consumption is shifting from the metros and tier 1 cities to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So currently, tier 2, tier 3 city constitutes of 38% of the total spend, but it is projected to be 50% within the next 3-4 years. And so it will be the majority, you can say, revenue earner for e-commerce company. There are multiple reasons associated with that. One of the reasons is that on these tier 2, tier 3, 4 cities, they do not have that much choices. So e-commerce companies gives them a level playing field. So they are able to buy products which are not available in those cities and towns. And the e-commerce penetration is also increasing. Choices availability is also increasing. So it makes sense. And if you look at the population of India, majority of the population in India lives in the tier 2, tier 3 and tier 4 cities. So this trend is absolutely as per projections. And there have been various business models also that which have evolved. One is a traditional last mile delivery operation, which happens everywhere. But I like to discuss more about some alternate models like customer pickup. Now, customer pickup model is also gaining traction, especially for working people who are not available at their home. So they pick up material from a nearby, you can say, collection center for the e-commerce companies. Similarly, delivery through retailers. There are small mom and pop shops which are there. So these e-commerce companies deliver a set of products to these people, and these people during their, or you can say, off working hours, or are the time period where the customers are less, they get it delivered for the nearby area. So it's a win-win situation for the e-tailer also and the retailer also. Third-party logistic company like Delivery, Expressbees, Shadowfax, Loadshare. So we also provide services because we collect material from multiple such e-commerce companies, and we provide serviceability across the nation. So they are also a very important relevant choice, specifically for smaller, younger startups which do not have that much volume to start their own captive logistic arm. And crowdsourcing is also taking some traction, where multiple set of people living in a particular geography basically crowdsource and compile demand and order materials together. So I've already talked, surface logistics is gaining traction. Large retailers are shifting towards the zonal fulfillment centers instead of the national fulfillment centers. Rise in demand in the tier 2, tier 3, 4 cities is the way forward. And the product size, the average product size is going to increase as we move forward. People are getting more confident with respect to buying bigger size good electronics, because these retailer e-commerce companies are also providing installation and facilities. Now I'll quickly run you through some of the case studies specific to Loadshare and how we did it. One is reduction of TAT by more than 50% by a hybrid model. This was for one of India's biggest FMCG clients, which has got a monthly dispatch of around 20,000 metric tons. And the geography which we are talking about is Northeast India, and Northeast India is an area which is a difficult geography to operate on. There are a lot of no entry restrictions. There are a lot of, you can say, natural calamities which happen from time to time. The dealer and distributor for such FMCG company have got a specific time for pickup of material. They do not work 24/7, and costs are very competitive in India. There are areas where bigger vehicles are not permitted. So in Northeast India, they were dispatching around 900 metric tons per month for secondary and B2B. Now their average TAT was 7 to 10 days. We bought it to, on an average, 2 days for that region, which is one of the industry best. And how did we do it? So what we did was we did a milk run, but milk run for longer geographies is something very difficult. I'll just give you in context. For example, I do a milk run through a vehicle for 4 cities, A, B, C, D. And all of these cities are equally dispersed at, say, 2 hours of running time. And if my vehicle dispatches 2 to 3 hours of running time. So if my vehicle dispatches in the evening, Then it almost it will probably reach one location at 9 p.m., other location at 12 p.m., the B location, the C location at around 3 a.m., and the D location at around 6 a.m. So for catering to these cities, what will happen at 9 a.m. at 9 p.m. the particular warehouse for the dealer distributor in general will not be open. Forget about 12 midnight or 3 a.m. or 6 a.m. All of these timings, even if my vehicle reaches at a particular location, they'll not be able to deliver to the end customer or dealer or distributor because it doesn't fall under their opening timing. So in order to deliver 4 cities, then it will take almost 2 to 3 days to cater because they have to deliver during the daytime, and there are a lot of other hurdles with respect to unloading the material, whether space is available, etc. So how we overcome this problem was by appointing last mile partners. So I appointed a last mile partner at A, I appointed a last mile partner at B, C, and D city. Now they know that there is at around 9 p.m. the A last mile partner knows that material will be there. It will offload the material, put it in the smaller warehouse. Early morning, they will coordinate with the dealer and distributor through smaller vehicles, which can enter into those cities and premises during the timings where the no entry is not there. They'll deliver that material. So with the help of last mile partners, even at odd hour, they're able to collect the material, and when the dealers and distributor open, they deliver it during the daytime in smaller vehicles where the no entry restrictions are lenient or probably they are permitted to go in those regions. So this helped us reduce the tag to less than 3 days, which was 7 to 10 days. Material reach faster, dealer distributor are happy, they're already paid for that thing. Material reaches faster to the shelf, that means it gets sold faster. Uh, with technology, we were able to give better visibility, that is in transit visibility to all of their hubs, better utilization of working capital. If you're paid for something, it reaches after 7 to 10 days, then the 7 to 10 days of working capital is stuck, or you are paying for interest for the 7 to 10 days of working capital. So it was a win-win situation for everyone. The other case study is serving low volumes via alternate channels. Now, what happens is when e-commerce companies in India are primarily thriving with respect to the service level, that we provide deliveries, next day deliveries in 4 hours, confirmed deliveries in 2 days, etc., even to the farther places. Now they want to maintain that service level. They want to maintain that value proposition with respect to fast delivery. So one of India's biggest online fashion retail company had wanted us to deliver, cater to the complete logistics in West India for one city. And the volumes were very less. Volumes were less, like 50 kgs, 150 packets per day, and customer packets which were there. So volumes were very low. It didn't make sense to operate their own fleet. Their turnaround time were very strict. So irrespective of the low volume, they wanted it to get delivered as per their company norms. Costs were also very competitive. Now in India, the thing is that if you, for a new player to enter into a big company, specifically with respect to logistics, it's very difficult because the existing player will not let the other person off board them. And the other thing is, these companies will give you the most pain area, the pain area which has not been solved by other companies, other logistics service provider. Now, either you burn money to solve that particular area for some time, hoping that they'll get happy with it and they'll give us a bigger chunk of their volume. Or the other thing is that they will say, uh, uh, we find an alternate medium. So what we did was we utilized the normal human transport network which was there. That is, the most popular ones are like buses and trains there. So through buses we were able to, and buses work in an express mode. So they have got a fixed timeline for every drop off location. So we used buses to cater a smaller volume, and we were able to achieve a significant improvement over their existing tag, solved their pain areas, earned a margin over it also. And this news spread through the supply chain that okay, the areas, the territory, the difficult to operate territories, they have been able to find a solution for it, and they've improved our tax. And what happened next was they started to give us some other areas also, which were the non-paid areas, bigger volumes. So this is how you build trust, and when you solve problems, then you are recognized and you are given a bigger chunk of the non-problem areas. And the final case study that I want to discuss is cash on delivery management via new mediums. So this is applicable for all the e-commerce companies, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Flipkart, whether it's Myntra, Jabong. And the territory that we approached was Northeast India, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 cities. So in India, the COD scenario is very tough. So it's like we are doing 30,000 packets per day, and 70% of them are cash on delivery. Now that means millions of rupees are being handled on every single basis. And when you deal with cash, then cash is risk, because the cash can be misutilized by the delivery boy, by the last mile partners. Some of the locations, the banks are at 2-3 kilometers distance, and these tier 2, tier 3, 4 cities, generally there are cooperatives banks which are there. Not all big branches are available there. So there are two ways of solving it. One is to open uh, a bank account in all of these companies, all of these tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. That is not possible. If my serviceability is 6,000 pin codes, I cannot open in 6,000 pin codes. That is not viable, both with respect to opening, reconciling, and all other stuff. The other thing is, so what we did was, we in India, the payment gates, like I discussed earlier, had picked up a lot of traction. Now that also led to a concept called payment banks, in which all the mom and pop shows, retailers, shop owners can collect cash from a particular person, and through those payment banks, with some minor commission, the amount gets directly transferred to the person who has deposited the cash. So we utilize this feature specifically with respect to companies like Airtel Payment Banks, by virtue of which we are able to get a bigger, you can say, segment of, you can say, pseudo banks, which were able to collect money everywhere. So it was much safer for us. And the other thing we did was, in some areas where the volumes were high, we also provided, you can say, uh, mobile credit card payment collection machines, which got integrated with your mobile phones. So this also helped both technology, physical hardware technologies like this, and you can say payment banks concept, like Airtel Payment Banks, helped us in the same. So this was more from it. If you've got any questions and queries, feel free to ask. I'll love to answer them. Thanks a lot.